Number 5, Emperor Xray by Parfums Vintage. This one here is a Creed Aventus clone. And what would a summer fragrance list be without Creed Aventus or an alternative to Creed Aventus? So this one here, when I first smelled this, I was so taken aback at how closely this resembled Creed Aventus. So I got a sample of this from my friend and I wore it for a couple of days. And very quickly I realized that this is actually better than Creed Aventus. This is a clone by the house of Parfums Vintage. They have so many great quality clones. Check out their website. I'm gonna leave a link down below. Best clone house to exist, hands down. And anyway, we know how many batches exist of Creed Aventus. It used to be a strong performer. However, for whatever reason, it seems like recent batches of Creed Aventus have just gone downhill in terms of quality, and it remains very expensive. Enter Emperor Xray by Parfums Vintage. The main notes in this are gonna be pineapple, birch, and ambergris. Basically, it smells like a really birchy batch of Creed Aventus. Birchy batch, birchy batch. Throughout my research, it seems like the pineapple and the birch are the accords that most people enjoy from Creed Aventus. And this has those notes in spades. So it opens up a very juicy, very fresh pineapple. It's quickly mixed with a very smoky birch. Now the smoke is very clean. There's nothing dirty about it. It's like a very, very clean incense mixed with a bright, woody birch. And in the bottom, this is gonna dry down with some ambergris, although I'm pretty sure they're using ambroxan in this. Reminds you like of the salty ocean. This is absolutely a phenomenal fragrance. There are other great Creed Aventus clones out there. I could have added Afnan Supremacy Not Only Intense. I didn't because this one here is like a one-to-one clone of Creed Aventus, while Afnan Supremacy Not Only Intense is more of a hybrid clone between Nishane Hachivat and Creed Aventus. This one remains true to the Aventus DNA, the original Aventus DNA, and I think it just does it better. The performance on this is very, very good. At least 2 hours of arm's length projection, and this lasts me 9-10 hours total. It's like a beast mode Aventus, and the quality is top notch. This is one of the most natural smelling fragrances in my collection. It is just amazing. However, you're gonna pay for that quality and that performance because this one is not cheap. The last time I checked, it was right around $150 for a 50 milliliter bottle. But hey, that's still right around half price of Aventus. And I have to say, guys, if you're in the market for Aventus, don't even bother with Aventus, just go for this one. Emperor Xray by Parfums Vintage. Number 4, Fujair Marine by Montal. This one here is supposedly a copy of Tommy by Tommy Hilfiger that was released in 1995. However, this one just does things better. So main notes in this one are gonna be ambroxan, jasmine, geranium, and oak moss. So this one here opens up with some ambroxan. It's gonna remind you of just blue fragrances being next to the ocean, but it's not quite as salty as a lot of other blue aquatic fragrances. And this is mixed with some jasmine and geranium. The geranium gives it a slight minty note here, and mixed with that jasmine, it does make this floral in the middle part of the fragrance, and it dries down to some nice, damp, woody, crisp, fuzzy oak moss. This one here is just an absolutely incredible fragrance. It really, really is. It's like the niche version of a soapy blue fragrance, and you know, I've recently done a full-length review on this. If you want to know more about this one, I suggest you go check out my full-length review of that. But let me just say, this smells like you're in a garden or maybe a forest next to the ocean. It smells exquisite, and the performance on it is great. I'll admit, compared to a lot of other Montals, this is not a powerhouse, but it is well above most designer fragrances out there. This one being a niche, you're gonna be able to smell the quality. You're gonna be able to differentiate all the individual notes in this. It is phenomenal. Check out my full review of this one, Fujair Marine by Montal. Number 3, L'Eau d'Issy Pour Homme Intense by Issey Miyake. So, we all remember the original L'Eau d'Issy. This one here, slightly citric, slightly oceanic, but it adds some really interesting notes. So this one here starts off with some yuzu. So yuzu is kind of like a very crisp, slightly dirty lemon. Starts to turn a little bit sweet, almost pushing into kind of like dirty territory. Doesn't quite get there, remains very, very nice smelling, this yuzu in the top. And it's mixed with some lotus. So lotus kind of reminds me of lilacs. Very similar to the lilac smell. So we're gonna get some citrus mixed with some florals here. And this is gonna dry down with some ambergris and some incense. Now the incense to me is more powerful than the ambergris. So the way the ambergris and the yuzu interact in this make it seem like it's gonna go down fresh blue aquatic territory. And in a way it does. However, the floral notes and the smoky notes are very prominent to my nose. So this is like taking the original, but really turning up the florals, turning up the yuzu citrus in the beginning and adding that smoky incense. This one here is a little bit exotic smelling, if I do say so myself. It's like an oriental blue aquatic fragrance. It's so unique to my nose. This is a little bit out there. I think it's quite mature. This is not going to appeal to a lot of younger guys out there. But I think if you're just into blue aquatic freshies, but you're tired of all of them, and you want something that's just next level, go with this one. This is super, super nice. Very exquisite, it's refined, very gentlemanly, and the performance is very good on this one as well. This is such an interesting one from Issey Miyake. In fact, out of all of their fresh summer-oriented fragrances, I would say this is probably the best, along with L'Eau Super Major. That's another one that I'm going to be reviewing at some point. But this one and that one that I just mentioned are absolutely the most interesting fresh Issey Miyake fragrances. And this one is extremely inexpensive. It smells top-notch in terms of quality and just uniqueness. Get your hands on this one, guys. You're not going to regret it. L'Eau d'Issey Pour Homme Intense by Issey Miyake. Down to the final two now, where the magic really starts to happen. Number 2, Armani's Acqua di Gio Absolute Instinct. So at this point, if you're into fragrances at all, you're gonna be familiar with the Acqua di Gio line. Started out with the original Acqua di Gio. Since then, there have been several flankers released. And in my opinion, this flanker here, Absolute Instinct, is absolutely the most interesting fragrance in the entire Acqua di Gio line. This one here has notes of amberwood, seaweed, and ebony wood. So this one here starts off with some amberwood. It's kind of a sweet, bubblegummy, woody scent. Might remind some people of Invictus, specifically Invictus Aqua 2016. So slightly sweet, slightly bubblegummy with an undertone of fresh woodiness. However, this does not smell youthful. This does not smell overly sweet in the beginning, although it might remind some people of Invictus Aqua, but it's very, very quickly overtaken by a seaweed note. Very salty, iodine-like seaweed note here. So a lot of fragrances try to mimic the smell of being next to the ocean. I think this one mimics the smell of being in the ocean itself. It's very salty in the middle here to the point where it might turn some people off, but let me tell you, mixed with that amberwood, the seaweed note really, really works. And to top it all off, this dries down with some beautiful ebony wood. Ebony wood is not a fresh wood. It's a very dark, slightly mature, woody note. Kind of reminds me of like an antique grandfather clock or an antique shelf, for example. So all in all, this one here starts off a little bit sweet, then gets very salty, and it dries down with some nice dark woods. This is a total departure from the Acqua di Gio line. It is slightly similar to Absolute, the original Absolute, which this is a flanker of, but this one totally goes off into its own territory after the first 5 minutes of application. Now, out of all of the fragrances on this list, this is going to be the hardest to find. However, if you can find this, I would just get my hands on it right away. This is one you're not going to want to pass up. This one does lean slightly mature and formal to my nose, but at the same time, you could wear it in casual settings. I don't think young guys are going to appreciate this one. It has some dark woody notes and it's very salty at the same time. But you know, if you're a fan of the Acqua di Gio line and you want to retain a little bit of that DNA, but just an abstract version of it, this one is going to be really, really interesting for you. Like I said, in my opinion, it's the very best of the line, the most interesting to my nose. If you can get your hands on it, pick it up. Acqua di Gio Absolute Instinct. And number 1 on the list, and my absolute favorite fragrance of all time, Vetiver Patchouli by Montal. The first time I smelled this, it was honestly love at first scent. You know, at the risk of sounding corny, which I definitely do. It's perfection, it's pure perfection. It's hard to me to put into words how much I love this one. So I first smelled this at a cologne shop, niche perfume store. I waited several months to see if it went on sale, it didn't, but I eventually found a bottle online which was significantly marked down, so I didn't even hesitate, just bought it, and I do not regret it one bit. This is a magical fragrance to me. So of course the notes, We're definitely gonna get some vetiver and patchouli, but also there's a carrot note. Yes, a carrot note, you've heard me correctly. It might sound a little bit strange, but it just adds a mineralic earthiness to this that completely complements the patchouli and the vetiver in just an absolutely amazing way. And it dries down. I get a little bit of suede in the dry down, so it's like a very light, very clean leather accord in the dry down. Just absolutely breathtaking, this fragrance here. And it's relatively unknown. I had never even heard of this one before I tried it in the shop that day. And since then, it is absolutely my favorite. The vetiver in this starts off almost a little bit dirty, like it makes you think it's gonna go into Encre Noir territory, for example, but it doesn't. It's quickly met by an earthy, slightly sweet patchouli note that kind of reminds me of like a spicy dark chocolate, but the vetiver remains in this, so it keeps it slightly grassy, but mixed with that dark chocolatey spicy patchouli, it just really works. There's nothing off-putting whatsoever about this, although it is a niche and it is a Montal. And with that mineralic, earthy, sweet carrot note and the light suede note in the bottom, perfection, just perfection. That's all I can say about this. A lot of Montal fragrances can come off as rough to some people. This is not one of them. This is supremely blended. Patchouli is probably gonna be the note that stands out the most to me in this. If you are a fan of patchouli, get your hands on this one. Don't even think twice about it. You're not gonna regret it. This is the best patchouli-oriented fragrance I've ever smelled. It's just incredible. Now for a Montal, the performance is not beast mode. A lot of Montal's oud fragrances and vanilla-centric fragrances are quite beast mode. This one here is still quite powerful. I get at least 2 hours projection, but it's not really an arm's length. It's more between an elbow and an arm's length. But it's still above average, far above average in my opinion. And the total longevity is 8 or 9 hours on my skin. So it's well above average. Great fragrance here. It's deep, but it's fresh. It's earthy, it's mineralic, it's just so many amazing things. Blows my mind every time I smell this. You know, we all have that one fragrance where it's just, yeah, that's it. That's this one for me. Vetiver Patchouli by Montal. So guys, that's been my list of 10 hidden gems for the summer season. Now, like I said, fragrance is subjective. Feel free to wear these all year round. I really think you should be able to wear whatever fragrance you want in any season. I think it really comes down to how many sprays you use. So the deeper and the sweeter the fragrance, maybe just use a couple of sprays in the summer. And in the winter, you can dial that up a lot. But anyway, guys, these are 10 of my favorites that I love to wear in the summer. I hope you've enjoyed this video and I hope you tune in next time. Until then, keep it real.